We're ready to begin at 10, Mr. Chair.
I got 9:59 and 23 seconds.
Okay, good morning, everybody. As Chair of the Commission, I call this meeting of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission to order at 10 a.m. This Zoom webinar is live streamed on YouTube on the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission's YouTube channel. For anyone in the public watching who would prefer to watch via a different platform than they are currently using, please visit our social media at Redistricting MI. Our live stream today includes closed captioning. Closed captioning, ASL interpretation, and Spanish, Arabic, and Bengali translation services will be provided for effective participating in today's meeting. Email us at redistricting@michigan.gov for additional viewing options or details on accessing language translation services for the meeting. People with disabilities needing other specific accommodations should also contact redistricting@michigan.gov. This meeting is being recorded and will be available at michigan.gov/MICRC for viewing at a later date. This meeting is also being transcribed, and those closed caption transcriptions will be made available and posted on the michigan.gov MICRC website and written public comment submissions. There's also a public comment portal that may be accessed visiting michigan.gov/MICRC. This portal can be utilized to post maps and comments, which can be viewed by both the commission and the public. Members of the media who may have questions before, during, or after the meeting should direct those questions to Edward Woods III, Executive Director of the Commission, at woodse3@michigan.gov or 517-331-6309. For the public watching and the public record, I'll turn to the Department of State to take note of the commissioners present.
Good morning, commissioners. Please say present when I call your name. As we are all attending today's meeting remotely, if you could also please disclose where you are attending remotely from by stating the township, city, or county that you are attending from when I call on you. I will call on commissioners in alphabetical order, starting with Doug Clark.
Present, and I am attending this morning's meeting from Huntington Beach, California.
Juanita Curry.
Present, and I am attending this meeting from Detroit, Michigan.
Anthony Eade.
Good morning, Sarah. Remotely attending from Oakland County, Michigan.
Brittany Kellum. Rhonda Lang. I believe Rhonda's on by phone. Rhonda, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Present, attending remotely from Lake County, Michigan.
Thank you. Steve Lett.
Present, attending from Grand Traverse County, Michigan.
Cynthia Orton.
Present, attending remotely from Battle Creek, Michigan.
MC Rothhorn.
Present, attending from East Lansing, Michigan.
Rebecca Satella.
Present, attending remotely from Wayne County, Michigan.
Janice Follett.
Present, attending remotely from Highland Township, Michigan.
Aaron Wagner. Richard Weiss.
Present and attending remotely from Saginaw Township, Saginaw, Michigan.
Dustin Witches.
Present, attending remotely from Tuscola, Illinois.
11 commissioners are present and there is a quorum.
Thank you. As a reminder to the public watching, you can view the agenda at www.michigan.gov/MICRC. I will now entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Lett, seconded by Commissioner Rothorn. Is there any discussion or debate on the motion? Hearing none, it is moved and seconded that the agenda be adopted. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All right. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Okay, the ayes prevail. Motion is adopted. Okay. Now we're moving on to public comment. So without objection, we will begin the public comment pertaining to the agenda topics portion of our meeting. Hearing no objection, we will now proceed with public comment. Individuals who have signed up or indicated that they would like to provide live remote public commentary to the commission will now be allowed to do so. I will call your name and our staff will unmute you. If you are on a computer, you'll be prompted by the Zoom app to unmute your microphone and speak. If you are on the phone, a voice will say that the host wants you to speak and prompt you to press *6 to unmute yourself. I will call on you by name or by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Also, please note that if you experience technical or audio issues, or we do not hear from you for 3 to 5 seconds, we will move on to the next person in line and return to you after they are done speaking. If your audio still does not work, you can email redistricting@michigan.gov and we will help you troubleshoot so that you can participate during the next public comment period at a later meeting. You'll have 2 minutes to address the commission. Please conclude your remarks when you hear the timer. First in line to provide public comment is Mr. Gallant.
Oh, James Gallant, Marquette. These are my opinions. And I would ask, I gave a written comment. I hope you got that. And but to recap, it'll be to please reconsider your refusal to get a formal written opinion concerning the new standards that the Proposition 2 constitutional amendment that was requested by Dr. Sam Wang and Princeton University in 2020. And they requested that you get a written legal opinion concerning the new standards. And it was found that the Commission on Legislative Apportionment, the statements are false statements in their report to this commission. And they stated that this commission itself, the Commission on Legislative Apportionment, I wondered where you guys got this from, that itself, the commission, was found unconstitutional. It's in their report. And now I see where you guys got that from. You never even answered me on any of that, but you didn't get a written legal opinion either. And Princeton University, I'm going to find out which attorney at Princeton reviewed this but we know Mike Brady was supposed to review this and say, hey, wait a minute, this is not good, because the House Fiscal Agency report and the the Supreme Court in 1982 had already determined in 2018 with the Voters Not Politicians cross complaint, right? They were determined this is not a new commission. This was a reiteration of the former that's already in the Constitution. So the rules of procedure were not struck down as unconstitutional for the former Commission on Legislative Apportionment. So Dustin, I'm going to ask you to please, as the chair, to help me to resolve these couple issues, because this is our case in controversy that I'm going to go to the Supreme Court and get this determined. Because we need a legal opinion, because then your lawyers are just going to have to answer my question anyway, which is, did the constitutional amendment, did that effectively eliminate the rules of procedure that they had?
That concludes your public comment. Please feel free to email public comments to the commission at redistricting@michigan.gov. We appreciate everyone who offers public comment in whatever manner that you choose, and invite you to keep sharing your thoughts, especially if you'd like to share ways that the MICRC processes or procedures have been good or could have been more effective. Okay. And next we will be moving on to unfinished business, which is item 5A for our current pending court cases. Without objection, I will ask Commissioner Lett and our legal liaison to introduce Mr. David Fink and Mr. Nathan Fink, our local counsel from Fink Brassic, to prevent these items. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Commissioner Lett.
Thank you, Dustin.
Welcome.
We've had some conversation, and this would be in regards to the current pending AG case and Bannerman case. Bannerman is in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. Briefing has been completed on that. I believe the plaintiffs, I think, filed their last response brief, and it's now sitting in front of the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, for them to take whatever action they determine to take. One of several things they could do would be to do nothing. And another would be to send it back. Another would be to determine that either side wins. We don't believe that that necessarily will occur at this time. So basically, we're waiting. The other case, AG, is in front of the three-judge panel in Western District, and it has not had any action on it of recent. So it's just sitting there right now. Nate, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, and good morning to everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and I think Commissioner Lett, you summed that up pretty well. I'll add a couple of additional comments for each case. So the Banarian case, as Commissioner Lett indicated, it's fully briefed before the Supreme Court of the United States. We sent along an update recently to the commission. It's possible that we could have a ruling from the Supreme Court as soon as November 7th. The court holds conferences and considers the pending matters that are before the court to decide what it's going to do with it, whether it's going to schedule oral argument on the case and ask for additional briefing, or possibly just essentially dismiss the appeal, and the case would then go back down to the Western District of Michigan. There are subsequent conferences after that, so it's possible it could be considered at the November 10th conference, and orders from that issue on November 14th. So that's where we are on Banarian. On the AG case, there have not been any substantive developments on the case. However, there have been some procedural happenings. This past Monday, the court held a scheduling conference called a Rule 16 conference with counsel for the parties in Kalamazoo. While it's a three-judge panel, Judge Maloney was, I think, deputized by his colleagues to hold it without them. And he held the conference on Monday and talked through some procedural matters, specifically related to the sequencing of discovery and the timing for discovery in this matter. Prior to the hearing, the parties had agreed on a proposed schedule, which laid out again, some of the proposed sequencing for discovery, such as when discovery would conclude, when the parties would exchange witness lists, both related to what we call lay witnesses and also expert witnesses, also timing on when motions can be filed by any party. We anticipate that both sides will probably file what are called motions for summary judgment at the conclusion of discovery, which is where any party can ask for the court to rule in their favor before a trial. Those motions would be filed into next year. We anticipate that the court would schedule oral argument on those anticipated motions sometime in the late summer or early fall. It's hard to predict exactly where that might fall. At the scheduling conference, Judge Maloney indicated that he would approve the proposed schedule. He asked a question about whether the parties thought that the proposed 6-month timeline would be sufficient for discovery. In response, the plaintiffs actually attempted to argue the merits a little bit of the case and kind of laid out a very brief summary of what they laid out in their complaint. In response, one of the attorneys from Baker, Erica Prudy, who was there on behalf of the commission with me and Dima Attila, stated disagreement as to the substantive points. It was pretty clear that I don't think the court was interested in having any sort of substantive arguments at this procedural scheduling conference, and focused on we focused in on the court's question of whether the parties would be able to meet the proposed discovery schedule. And we, of course, said yes. Judge Maloney also asked counsel for the Secretary of State about the relevant deadlines for the 2024 elections, indicating to us that the court is aware of the potential impact that any decision may have on the state's election process. But beyond that, there was really nothing more that was discussed. We have not yet received the actual signed order from the court laying out the scheduling and procedural deadlines, but we anticipate receiving that very soon. Again, that'll establish the fact and expert discovery sequencing over the next 6 months. The next step for the legal team will be to prepare what are called initial disclosures of witnesses and documents that we may use to support our positions in the case. The other side will also be doing their own disclosures that lay out their documents and witnesses that they intend to rely on. We anticipate that the plaintiffs will be seeking discovery soon, making document requests for written admissions, interrogatories, and then down the road, depositions of relevant witnesses, including, we anticipate, commissioners. We will then, of course, in turn, seek discovery from the plaintiffs. The expert reports will be due in early 2023. So we will be beginning that process. When I say we, I mean the legal team. Baker, of course, is leading the litigation on this front, but we'll begin to be identifying and retaining expert witnesses so that they have time to complete their work under the scheduling order. And as I had alluded to before, after discovery closes in April of 2023, it's anticipated that both sides would file these motions for summary judgment. The court did not set a trial date at the scheduling conference. It's likely that the court will wait to hear argument on those motions and perhaps have some kind of check-in at some point to determine whether to set a trial date should a trial become necessary. So that's the sort of summary of what transpired at the scheduling conference and what we anticipate going forward on the AG case. On both Benarian and AG, I know that it's been our understanding that the commission has been advised that it's important to, of course, preserve the record from the commission's work. But I wanted to take this as this opportunity to remind and reiterate the importance of that. We'd ask that you please preserve all files, including anything in your custody or control that also relates to any information on the website. We shouldn't be deleting anything from the website at this time. I don't think that that's happening at all, but just wanted to reiterate that point. So it's just important to keep in mind that you don't want to delete or alter anything that was created during the map drawing process. And I had communicated with the Baker attorneys about that, and I advised that I would be providing an update to the commission, and they asked that I please provide that that comment to the commission. So with that, I think that sums up where we are on both the Benarian and AG cases at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Fink. Any questions, comments, concerns from any of my fellow commissioners at this time for either Commissioner Lett or any of the Finks that are present today? Commissioner Zatello.
Do we have any kind of ballpark as to, or any anticipation as to when depositions are going to occur? Do you think they're going to happen after the beginning of the year, or are we expecting them sooner rather than later?
We haven't talked about any concrete deposition schedules yet. I do anticipate that we'll likely have some kind of exchange of written discovery first. So, as you know, Commissioner Satella, it's hard to predict exactly how discovery may play out. Given the relatively tight timeline of 6 months that both sides have indicated, all parties indicated they intend to meet, I think that they'll move perhaps quicker than in some other cases, but I think it's likely to take at least a couple of months to get the document productions and written exchanges of discovery completed. It's possible that they'll ask for depositions sooner than that, but if I were to guess, I would say it's perhaps early next year. I haven't spoken with the Baker folks about a specific timeline on that. So again, it's possible that it would be earlier than that, but I think that's a fair assumption.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Well, Nate, David, thank you so much for everything that you folks are doing for us. I appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Next on our agenda is unfinished item 5B, the fiscal year 23 budget update. Without objection, I will ask Executive Director Woods, followed by Commissioner Lett, to present this item. Hearing no objection, take it away, Executive Director Woods. You're muted, sir.
Are you able to see my screen?
Sure can.
Okay, great. Let me go ahead and get started. Thank you. Our fiscal year 23 budget process, just to kind of explain a little thing to the public, is that we are a part of the legislative branch. We are not a part of the executive branch. So therefore, we do not have a schedule like the executive branch does in terms of reporting to subcommittees or what have you, in terms of proposing a budget and what we would like to have, because our language is a boilerplate language in the Constitution with regards to how the commission is funded. Once again, we do not follow the rules of the executive branch. We are a part of the legislative branch, once again, a part of the legislative branch, and we have boilerplate language in the Constitution. You can go to our website and see the Constitution, but the constitutional requirements, and this is what it states, beginning no later than December 1 of the year preceding the federal decennial census and continuing each year in which the commission operates, the legislature shall appropriate funds sufficient to compensate the commissioners and to enable the commission to carry out its functions, operations, and activities, which activities include retaining independent, nonpartisan subject matter experts and legal counsel, conducting hearings, publishing notices, and maintaining a record of the commission's proceedings, and any other activity necessary for the commission to conduct its business at an amount equal to not less than 25% of the general fund, general purpose budget for the Secretary of State for that fiscal year. Within 6 months after the conclusion of each fiscal year, the commission shall return to the state treasury all monies unexpended for that fiscal year. The commission shall furnish reports of expenditures at least annually to the governor and the legislature, and shall be subject to annual audit as provided by law. Each commissioner shall receive compensation at least equal to 25% of the governor's salary. The state of Michigan shall indemnify commissioners for costs incurred if the legislature does not appropriate sufficient funds to cover such costs. Here's another constitutional requirement. The commission shall have legal standing to prosecute an action regarding the adequacy of resources provided for the operation of the commission and to defend any action regarding an adopted plan. The commission shall inform the legislature if the commission determines that funds or other resources provided for operation of the commission are not adequate. The legislature shall provide adequate funding to allow the commission to defend any action regarding an adopted plan. And the other constitutional requirement, the terms of the commissioners shall expire once the commission has completed its obligations for a census cycle, but not before any judicial review of the redistricting plan is complete. As it relates to the fiscal 23 budget process, we sent some correspondence to the appropriations chair on August 18th, the chairs. We did it again on October 4. We received a reply to our October 4 letter on October 12 that was discovered to be released to the press. And then we sent a letter on October 13th when we haven't had received a reply yet. Just for the record, I would like to show the letters so that everyone can see what I'm referring to on the screen. Are you able to see my screen? This letter is dated August 18th, and it was sent to the appropriate committee on the Senate side and the Appropriations Committee on the House side, Senator Stamos and Representative Albert. And it discusses what the action the commission took with regards to the budget. As you know, we did get a supplemental request, and as a result, the supplemental request is different than the boilerplate language. If you remember on the supplemental request, Commissioner Rothhorn, who was the chair at the time, and myself went before the committee because it was a supplemental request, not a part of the boiler language. In other words, we needed additional money because we've believed that we were not going to have enough money that was appropriated, once again, appropriated to the commission. The appropriation represents 25% of the Michigan Department of State General Fund General Purpose. So we did a supplemental request for $2.2 million, and we received that. We talked about our two pending cases and how they would go into the fiscal year 23 because we were never included as a part of the boilerplate language. Want to clearly say that again, as part of the boilerplate language for fiscal year 23. The commission had money for fiscal year 20. As a result of the boilerplate language, nothing was done by the commission. Fiscal year 21, as a result of the boilerplate language, nothing was done by the commission, as well as fiscal year 22, as a result of the boilerplate language. This was the letter that was sent on August 18th. We followed up on October 4. Are you able to see that on the screen? The October 4th letter, where we reiterated what I shared with regards to the Constitution. And once again, for those in the public, we will post our letters on the website so that you can see these as well. This is with regards to the letter sent on October 4. And then we received a letter from the legislature on October 12th, acknowledging receipt of the letter, talking about the budget request on August 18th. Talking about the historical perspective in terms of what took place there. And once again, this letter was released by the Senate office, I want to repeat, not by our staff or myself in particular, but it was released to the press. I did receive a call and responded to the press as it relates to this particular letter that was released. And they stated their standpoint with regards to that. And then, as you already know, there's a belief that we have 1.7 million not spent and not realizing that the Constitution requires us to send back unexpended funds. As a result, we provided that clarification in the letter dated October 13th. And so we just want to share what happened with regards to that. The press did ask after the letter was released on October 12th for our letters on October 4th, as well as the letter on October 13th, which they received. We have received, I repeat, we have received no response to our letter dated October 13th whatsoever. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, so bear with me. Are you able to see that? Perfect. So this provides the following concerns. As we already know, more than 61% of the voters, as relates to proposal 2018-02, voted for ordinary citizens, not the legislature, to have responsibility for redistricting. It was voted that we would be independent, nonpartisan. So as a result, you don't see us arguing back and forth or inserting ourselves in partisan debate, but standing on the Constitution. The part of the Constitution was a part of the ballot proposal. So when people went to the polls, they went with the understanding that the legislator shall appropriate funds for the operation of the commission. And so here, one of the concerns is we had a proposal that passed by more than 60%. The voter intent was clear, but yet we did not have our boilerplate language, which is in the Constitution, followed by the legislature as relate to giving us funds for fiscal year 23. We are in operations because we do have 2 pending lawsuits, as was previously stated and shared by our legal liaison, Commissioner Lett, and our 2 attorneys, Attorney David Fink, as well as Attorney Nathan Fink from Fink Brussick. We outlined the constitutional requirements and what was shared, and whether or not the Constitution, as we all believe, should be followed. We do our best, to follow the Constitution. It's been raised throughout the entire process with regards to constitutional requirements. And so it appears that our concerns is the constitutional requirements are being ignored. And then last but not least, the democracy. We have to have the ability to defend our maps. The maps have gone into law, and previous legislative redistricting bodies also had funds to defend their maps. So we should also have funds to defend our maps as a way to ensuring democracy. As you know, the commission's mission was to draw fair maps with citizen input from Michigan's Congressional, Michigan State Senate, and Michigan State House. And so these are the concerns as a result of the constitutional requirements not being fulfilled that I want to present to you before the commission so that we have a foundation for the discussion. And at this point, Commissioner Witches, I will turn it over to Commissioner Lett and our attorneys to talk about possible next steps. Thank you for this time. And if there's any questions with regards to the presentation, I can take those.
Any questions for Mr. Woods?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Was that directed at me,
Yeah,
Commissioner?
I'm sorry.
Witcher?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay.
Lane, go ahead.
Thank you. My question is, it was referred in an open meeting when it comes to the constitutional amendment by Mike Brady, that the reading of the Constitution states that commissioners will receive a minimum of 25% of the governor's salary, and that we have more than surpassed that, so that it could be read that basically we did fulfill our duties and the pay that was granted to us in the Constitution. So I would like feedback on that, since it was stated by Secretary of State Attorney Mike Brady.
Commissioner Witches, I'm sure Mr. Brady can do that, but I want to make sure that our focus on the conversation is with regards to the budget, and the budget being boilerplate language in the Constitution as to why we do not have funding today. As relates to the compensation, I know Mr. Brady is more than capable to address that, but I just want to make sure everyone is clear that our focus is on why the commission does not have funding for its operations for fiscal year 23.
Point of order, though, this does relate directly to the funding in the 2023 budget. So I just want to put that out there because I think the two could correlate together.
Commissioner
I'll
Zatello?
yield.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead. Commissioner Lang, I didn't know, did you have anything else to add?
I think she's looking for an answer from
Oh.
Mr. Brady.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Brady.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Good morning to you all. I note that you have your legal counsel on this call. I think the question was raised by Commissioner just now is in line with the language in the Constitution, prior, discussions we had on those points, and also in line with a publicly released legal memo from your lawyers. I will note that the Constitution provides a guaranteed minimum. And so in that respect, I think the question is accurate, that the minimum has been achieved. I will note that it's a minimum and not a maximum. And so as I've noted previously, I don't see, I'm not aware of anything that is prohibiting the commission from acting the way that it is. Again, it's a minimum. You've achieved the minimum, but it's just that. It's a floor. It's not a ceiling. There's nothing in constitutional language that was referenced that prohibits the commission, so long as you have lawsuits pending, at the very least, while you continue to operate to defend those lawsuits. I think that the language in the Constitution, again, consistent with your lawyer's legal counsel, has been publicly discussed and released. That's clear. So I'm not sure if there's kind of additional questions on those points, or if either Mr. Fink would like to speak to that. Hope that was helpful. Thank you.
I'm happy to speak to it briefly.
Yeah, since this is all related to the same question, go ahead, Mr. Fink, and then I'll get to you, Commissioner Zatello.
If I understand the question correctly, the fact, first of all, I agree with what Mr. Brady has indicated. The fact that the 25% minimum has been met does not affect the commission's authority to budget and expend more than the 25%. And the issue of, but most importantly, for purposes of today's discussion, the issue of that 25% standard, if you will, for compensation for commissioners has not been raised, to my knowledge, by either of the appropriations committees or by the state budget director. It's just has not been an issue. We don't expect it to be an issue. So I don't think we have to be concerned about that in terms of today's question. If there's further questions on that, of course, we'll look into it for you.
Commissioner Zatello.
Yeah, I just think the issue of salaries is a bit of a moot point, because even if we were to totally remove commissioner salaries from the budget, the reality is we still are going to have a budget, because the bulk of our budget is legal fees at this point. And then there are other ancillary costs that we have as well, for cell phones, for computer support, for the cost of translators to be at these meetings, for the ability to even have these meetings. There's just all sorts of other expenses other than the salaries. So I think worrying about salaries is really a moot point and a red herring, and doesn't really focus on the real issue, which is, at this point, we don't have the budget that we're required to be given under the Constitution, and that's the issue that needs to be resolved. And so what I would like to do at this point is to make a motion to empower our executive director to take any and all steps necessary, up to and including litigation, to resolve this budgetary issue with the state legislature.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Commissioner Zatello and seconded by Commissioner Lett to allow the executive director and our legal team to to empower them to do whatever is necessary to fix this budget issue up to and including litigation. Did I summarize that correctly, Commissioner Zatella?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion or debate on said motion? Hearing none.
Well, I guess I got a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Lett.
First off, and there's not any anything that Edward has said other than he continues to refer to the appropriation as boilerplate language. And while that's true, it is boilerplate language. It is also true that it's a constitutional mandate. It's not just pure boilerplate language, which lawyers would throw in somewhere. That the language regarding the budget and the amount of funds that are to be received obviously was put in by the drafters of the constitutional amendment because they could see, looking down the road, that if the legislature didn't like what we were doing or what we did, they could try to choke us off by cutting off the funding. So that's just my observation. We being Executive Director Woods and myself and Messrs. Finks have discussed what the possibility of trying to resolve this is. The letter writing campaign obviously has been shown. We've also reached out personally to some of the attorneys that the Fink firm knows and has worked with before to see what else could be done. But in fact, if nothing occurs, then the discussion is to file an appropriate action to request the court to order the legislature to follow the Constitution. That's a very brief summary of what we've discussed. And I think if you look at the letter back from the appropriation committees, that joint letter, I think that they are looking at it, well, we appropriated 2.2 or whatever they did. You still have 1.7. I think that's down to about 1.4. Now, what are you talking about? You've got money. We have not received legal opinions that we in fact do have that money. We have received opinions from the budget office that we can't use it other than to pay bills that accrued prior to the end of the 2022 budget year, which we have done and continue to use some of that money for payment right now of expenses that occurred prior to the end of the budget year, such as legal bills, video work, the translators, etc. So those are legitimate. We've been paying them. But that's the end of the rope. So we're not asking, the motion does not say go file a lawsuit right now, but it does say, hey, if that's what it takes, we would like permission to do that and move forward. Obviously, we can't sit here forever. And further, obviously, there's nothing going to happen before the election. I mean, they're not here, they're not coming back. And so we're kind of stuck until the election's over. Other than that, I would ask David or Nate if they have anything to add. I think that sums up a very thumbnail sketch of our discussion, but they may have something, or Edward may have something. David?
I don't really have anything to add. I think that that was stated very clearly. I do believe that there's a misunderstanding. I think that when the appropriations committees understand that the remaining funds, apparently it's $1.4 million that's unexpended from the last fiscal year, that those remaining funds cannot be spent and must be returned 6 months after the fiscal year. I think when they understand that, at a minimum, those funds will be applied to the next budget year, along with what the other needs are as the Constitution directs. From reading their letter, I did not come away with the belief that there was any malice there. I think it is, the letter arises out of a misunderstanding of the needs of the commission. They make a reference to the existence of exigent circumstances, and there are exigent circumstances. You cannot spend those funds, and you need those funds. I'm quite confident they'll do the right thing, but if not, we appreciate that the commission, if it acts today to authorize litigation, if and only if it's necessary. It'll be unnecessary to have another commission meeting to go forward and do what has to be done.
Commissioner Clark.
Yeah, I'd like to request that we have the motion read again, so we know the exact language, please.
Go ahead, Commissioner Zatella.
Yeah, I was going to say I can repeat it. I moved to authorize our executive director to take whatever steps necessary up to and including litigation to resolve the current budget dispute.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay. All in favor of approving the motion as presented by Commissioner Zatella, raise your hand and say aye.
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 All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. Okay, ayes prevail and the motion is adopted. Anything else in regards to the budget? Okay. Okay, we'll move on. Next item on our agenda is item 5C, the draft lessons learned video, and without objection, I will ask Executive Director Edward Woods III to present this item. Hearing no objection, Mr. Woods, floor is yours.
Thank you. Commissioners, we've had this video reviewed by our legal counsel, and now we will play it for your consideration and then action after it's completed. So let me set that up for you.
Politics in Michigan wasn't working for people for different reasons, but they all kind of had the same root problem, which is that our politicians in Michigan weren't listening to voters. And why they weren't listening was because they didn't have to. Politicians, because of gerrymandering, they got to draw their own districts and they got to choose their own voters as opposed to the other way around.
In 2018, through Proposal 2, Michigan voters took fate in their own hands, and by more than 61%, they decided to have citizens, everyday citizens, to draw the maps versus politicians. So that acronym FATE kind of set the foundation in terms of fairness, awareness, transparency, and engagement.
Tomorrow, the Michigan Redistricting Commission will start the process of voting on new congressional districts. There's been a controversy with the current proposals, with some Detroit leaders claiming the new maps will not represent them.
Detroiters should be represented by Detroiters, just like any other community.
Utilizing the general election is the wrong data to use. I think the media struggled with covering this because it's very complicated. The reporters would say that to me and to others that, you know, how can I boil this down and get it into a 30-second clip?
Well, when we look at the Constitution, communities of interest is defined as the third rank criteria in the redistricting process. And it actually says reflect the state's diversity and communities of interest. And it also said that communities of interest did not represent a political party. So the commission was very clear about not looking at municipal boundaries, township boundaries as communities of interest.
The difficulty of communities of interest is that they are classifications that fall outside census classifications. The concept is a little bit slippery because it involves identifying a community of people who are geographically cohesive, so they live close enough together to make an impact on an election. And they share some interest, whether it be an industry interest or a language interest or some cultural interest that makes them feel that they have a stake in legislation that affects them. So one thing that you might want to watch out for is to make sure that they are not used on some pretextual basis to justify a map that some map drawer wants to draw just to suit them for other purposes.
Many other states use the concept of communities of interest in their own approaches to redistricting. We identified over 1,200 community groups of all kinds.
The state Supreme Court will not grant a deadline extension to the commission in charge of drawing new legislative and congressional maps in our state. The Redistricting Commission wants the deadline bumped back to January 25th, but the court says that there isn't a sufficient legal reason for it to extend the deadline.
The pandemic absolutely affected the process and our ability to draw maps. The census data was delayed. There were also questions about the accuracy and the reliability of the census data because of the pandemic. I mean, was the census a complete count? Was a question that sort of plagued us throughout the process.
One of the problems to start with is we were meeting by Zoom because of the pandemic. It's hard to make, to build that camaraderie over a Zoom meeting. So once we went into in-person meetings, then we developed good camaraderie.
Meeting in person was definitely a key part of the bonding, the teamwork. We got to build relationships of trust. And then when we were working together and it was really long days and it was stressful, we were getting pressure from all sides, we could trust the process that we were all going through together and know that we all had the same goal of creating good, fair maps.
It was like our coming of age process, right? We actually, during that first round of public hearings, before we did any maps, got to know each other, got to hear the public, and also hear each other and how we were processing what we were hearing from the public. The mapping part, which happened after that first round of public hearings, was influenced a great deal because of that. For our process, for what we did, like, I'm really proud of it.
One of the really terrific things that this commission did was adapt to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The commission, I think, did a good job of providing a range of outreach to try to inform citizens about their opportunities to engage. And I think that paid off. We saw it with the turnout at public meetings, public hearings, and so on.
They, made a public portal available. They held Zoom webinars as well as in-person meetings. And they really invited everyone in, and kind of everyone got to see what a complicated process redistricting is.
We received 30,000 public comments. I read every single one of them. I listened to every single one of them. But for me to say as an individual, like, that I can accurately categorize or put them on a shelf where they go, I mean, that's just not realistic for any person. And so while I did my best, and I know others did as well, we really could have helped ourselves by having a tracking system for those comments.
I think we had more participation from the city areas and the more urban, suburban areas than we had from the rural areas. I think there was skepticism in general from organizations in the rural areas. And we did have participation in powerful ways with a solid kind of message that it was hard to not hear.
It was all open. There weren't any secret meetings. other than the one, which, as they say, the defecation hit the ventilation on that.
Leaders with Michigan's Redistricting Commission are defending their decision to go into a closed session this afternoon, preventing the public from hearing the members discuss two legal memos.
The commission, which has made a point of being transparent throughout the process of drawing up their map proposals, voted 11-2 to temporarily go into that closed session, triggering backlash from Republicans and Democrats alike.
Commission officials say the accusations are being overblown, saying the closed session was only to discuss things that had attorney-client privilege.
I mean, the mission is still the same. The deadlines haven't changed, and we are committed to drawing fair maps with public engagement.
I know that there are people that are skeptical that we weren't transparent, or maybe we were making closed-door deals or something, but I just wish everyone could see that we were totally transparent. We did not discuss anything if it wasn't in an open meeting.
Michigan's Independent Redistricting Commission is being hit with a lawsuit. A group of state lawmakers made the announcement today. The suit alleges the commission is in violation of the Voter Rights Act.
The commission purported that there would be an opportunity for African American leadership, and that it wouldn't change because even though these districts were not majority African American, that if the best candidate was African American and had showed promise, good political capital, demonstrated themselves, that they would prevail. Our primary election 2022 shows us that that didn't happen.
The training regimen was disjointed in my mind because nobody knew what they were doing. Probably nobody knew about the Voting Rights Act.
There are lots of things that this inaugural commission has learned. It could communicate proactively, more proactively with the public. It could explain, for example, this is what the Voting Rights Act means. This is what, the analysis requires.
I think the commission definitely experienced some tension in terms of advice we were receiving from council.
I would definitely make sure that we have more staff, numbers of people, to do the numbers of hours that were required. That could be a way to increase transparency because, right, there may be minutes or transcripts that could be uploaded quicker.
There was not enough data about minority candidates and election outcomes in primaries over the last decade. This is really important data for the next commission to be able to understand how their maps protect minority voter rights according to the Voting Rights Act. I think we have to say, would a different approach have produced better maps? Not necessarily.
I would say that Michigan did actually quite well, and it's a really promising sign that the very first time out of the gate, Michigan drew pretty fair maps, both congressional and legislative.
This kind of set of circumstances that we were faced with in 2020 and 2021, I think this commission really did its job and did it well. They did the job of drawing fair and impartial districts within a transparent process. And they are actually some of the fairest in the country.
I would absolutely disagree with that in terms of southeastern Michigan and how the lines have been drawn for communities that African Americans reside in. We believed that this was going to be an opportunity to have some fair maps, but now we have a situation where there is not likely to be Black representation from Michigan in Congress.
One thing I would recommend that the future commission do is start hiring staff immediately. We were months before we had staff, and luckily the Secretary of State's office provided staff for us, support staff, and they were wonderful and they really, really helped. But it was different than having our own staff, and I really think that needs to happen from the get-go.
I would probably have a budget analyst
because, or a financial analyst to track the money, going in, coming out, doing the bidding, the procurement process. The Michigan Department of State Procurement Department was phenomenal.
One of the suggestions early on from some of the commissioners and from other commissions in other states, particularly Arizona, was that we staff 2 attorneys, and we elected not to do that. And in hindsight, I think that was a mistake. I think we should have had a, either 2 neutral attorneys or maybe a Republican and a Democratic attorney. I think we should have had 2 voices in our general counsel office.
For a commission like the Independent Redistricting Commission in Michigan to do its work, it's going to need at least enough money to have good legal counsel, good data counsel, and enough money to have public meetings across the state. And of course, enough money to pay the commissioners who are dropping their everyday lives in order to be redistricting commissioners.
The only thing I would change about the selection process for the commission is perhaps more public education. There are people, I think, who are thinking that there should be a certain number of either racial groups or geographic distribution on the commission. But I think overall what we ended up with is exactly what you would hope to have in a citizen-run redistricting commission, which is that it was run by everyday Michiganders who could relate to all the people that came before them.
If I had a chance to talk to a future commissioner, I would say to spend the time working to learn what you have to do, and then have confidence in your own decision making. And the commissioners need to have the strength to say, okay, we're making this decision, here's why we're making it, and here's what we're going to do, and then stand behind that.
There's no magic formula. All you have to do is listen to community members all across the state who are going to come and talk with you, and their goal is just going to be to educate you. This is why it should be considered a community of people that want our interests represented in government. All you have to do is listen and gain all of that education, and this redistricting process is something that we will all do together.
It may be the hardest thing that you'll do. There'll be pressure from all sides, but it's important and really fulfilling to take part, and just do so honestly and with no agenda except for creating the best maps that you can create and working as a team. And it's great to see government by the people for the people.
Bravo.
Okay, Commissioner Witches, we need approval.
Okay. Commissioner Rothorn?
Sorry, I was trying to make a clap, but it didn't work.
Oh, okay. All right. So as this was a draft, it's looking like we need to approve this going out and then approving the actual video. Commissioner Clark? You're muted.
Sorry about that. I'd like to put a motion forward that we approve this as the official lessons learned video for the commission.
Okay, you got a second by Commissioner Zatella. Okay, so the motion has been introduced and seconded by Commissioner Clark and Commissioner Zatella to approve the draft lessons learned video. All in any debate or discussion on the motion as it stands? Commissioner Ede.
Well, well done, everyone who was in that. The only thing I would perhaps ask add or change, and I don't know if it was in there at the end, but on that last, in that last second, that blue page that had all of our pictures on it, I'm not sure if I saw Sue's or Julianne's, and given that they were here for pretty much the entire process, we might want to put them on there too. But besides that, I think it's a great video.
Commissioner Ede, I'm sorry. Commissioner Witches.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, there's credits where we're recognizing them and the organizations that helped us get our 30,000 comments. It's just not there.
Any other comments, or questions on the motion? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor to approve the draft lessons learned video, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay.
Nay.
I think Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Witches froze.
Yes, well, I'm Commissioner Clark, the vice chair, and I'll take over till Commissioner Witches can get back online. He's had some video problems and some audio problems. Can we, I think we have a count of ayes over nays. I think there was one nay. Yeah, all of it, we've had that, so the ayes prevail and the motion is adopted. And I think we need to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our new business. Next on the agenda is new business item number 6A, September financial report. Without objection, I will ask Mr. Woods to present this item. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Woods.
All right. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. This is the financial statement for September 30th, 2022. Once again, this is a preliminary. Financial statement. As you know, our fiscal year starts from October 1, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. Once again, this is our preliminary statement as it relates to September 30th. If you take a look at what we have, salaries were $63,729.60. I can tell you that is understated. With regards to that, the travel costs $122.50. Our meetings cost $630. Our technology costs $908.33 for the month of September. Advertising is not necessarily advertising, but it's covering the cost for the Gonware subscription, things along those lines. The consultants is
Apologies for
$166.
the interruption, Edward. I just wanted to note for the record that Commissioner Witches has rejoined.
Oh, thank you. Our consultant costs for the month of September, and then the office support really refers to our Zoom account that we use for meetings. Once again, I want to repeat, this is a preliminary report for September, not a final report for September. All of our bills are still coming in for the end of the month. Once again, all of our bills are still coming in. So I just want to make sure that we're clear as it relates to that. If there's any questions, I can take them at this time.
Do any of the commissioners have a question? Okay, I see no reason for a motion since this is preliminary. We'll wait till the final to
Sure.
To approve it. Okay, great. Commissioner Witches, you want me to turn this back over to you or just continue on?
Oh, I think it's your turn to continue on for your first little meeting run, if that's okay with you.
That's no problem.
We're critiquing you hard.
Let's move on to the next agenda item. which is the approval of the minutes from the August 18th meeting. These draft minutes have been provided to the commission before the meeting and are posted on the website. Are there any edits to these meetings? Commissioner Orton.
Yeah, there's just a disparity, the time is wrong, sorry, I can't get the word out. At the beginning, it says that the meeting went from 10:02 a.m. to 12:21 p.m. But down at the bottom, it says the meeting was adjourned at 11:21 p.m., which I'm not sure if it ended at 11:21 a.m. or the 12:21 p.m., but I know it didn't end at 11:21 p.m. So that just needs to be corrected.
Okay, and I don't know which is the correct time to correct it to. I'm just gonna assume, without looking at the tape, that it was 11:21.
I believe that it was as well.
I think we need to get that verified prior to making the change.
Excuse me, Commissioner Clark, that is correct. I'll make the change. Thank you.
Okay, fine, thank you. I appreciate that. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So move.
August the 18th.
Second.
That's okay. That's
with that correction.
With that correction, correct. That's motion's been submitted by Commissioner Lett and seconded by Commissioner Orton. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Hold on.
Commissioner
Aye.
Commissioner Curry had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Curry, would you like to speak?
Well, it wasn't a question. I was only, we were speaking of the last meeting because I see where, when I was reading the minutes, that it had that I was absent. And I just wanted to correct that I was not absent.
We're going to get to the last meeting next.
Okay.
Which is the August meeting. So we'll move forward with the August meeting and then move on to September.
Okay.
So let's have a revote on that. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail and the minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 29th meeting. These draft minutes have been provided to the commission before the meeting and are posted on the website. Are there any edits to these minutes? Juanita, I believe this is what you were referencing.
That's what I was referencing, yes.
Okay, could you repeat your concern, please?
My concern is that I was present, but it was not documented.
Okay.
Sorry.
Commissioner Orton.
On this one, I show anyway, on the September 29th meeting, is that the one that you're referring to?
Correct.
And that shows that you're remotely from Detroit, Michigan. So I think it was the previous one maybe that you saw.
No, I was having trouble with my, the computer was not operating correctly and I could hear you guys, but I guess you all couldn't hear me. And I did speak with Edward on that, but I guess it wasn't corrected.
I show
Okay.
that you're present.
Let me, I'm taking a look at both of the minutes. And let's back to the August 18th one that we just approved. Juanita's name was not on as present, but was on as absent in August. And but in the September meeting, you were present. Does that reflect what's appropriate?
I should have been present at both of them.
All right. Mr. Woods, could you take a look at the video and then make the appropriate adjustment on the August 18th meeting?
Ms. Reinhardt has her hand up and I can follow after.
Let me turn it over to Ms. Reinhardt, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I appreciate Commissioner Curry's comment and have spoken with her about her computer difficulties, which have luckily been resolved at this point. Unfortunately, if a commissioner is experiencing technical difficulties that precludes them from participating in a meeting fully, being able to indicate their presence during roll call or participate in votes, it does mean that the record would reflect that they were absent during that meeting. I'll also note that if you experience computer difficulties, each commissioner does have the option to dial into the meeting to fully participate. And Commissioner Curry was not able to do that.
I did. I dialed in. I did.
Yeah. So there's an option to dial in, and if you would, you can notify me to request to be unmuted. That's what Commissioner Lang is currently doing. She's dialing in by phone and let me know in advance so I can unmute her and she's able to indicate her presence whenever we do roll call and participate in conversations. So if that happens again, Commissioner Curry, I would definitely advise that you let me know and contact me, and I'm able to unmute you so you can fully participate. But as the record reflects, because you were not able to participate in that meeting fully because of your computer difficulties, it does reflect that you would be absent from that meeting.
Well, I understand exactly what you're saying, but if I'm not mistaken, it was you or Edward that dialed me in, and I could hear you guys, but you all couldn't hear me. In fact, MC, the chairperson, said that he could hear me, but no one acknowledged it.
We'll go by the procedure that Sarah just indicated, and we have already approved the August 18th meeting with the exception of the time change that Edward's going to make. So we'll leave that as is.
And Mr. Vice Chair, if I just may say one more thing.
Yes,
there have been other commissioners in the past who have experienced something similar or who were unable to participate fully in the meeting, who dialed in to simply listen to the meeting, but were unable to participate and so were not counted present. So this approach that I described is consistent with what has been done in the past with other commissioners as well.
Correct, and we'll want consistency as we move forward. Okay.
Excuse me, Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
I just want to reiterate what Ms. Reinhardt said, because there have been other commissioners, and what we did, and I shared this with Commissioner Curry, is we made a note of that on the commission attendance report, because basically what happened, she was able to listen in through a three-way call, but it wasn't recorded, unfortunately, for the minutes. And there have been other commissioners who have had the same situation that she has. So as it relates to our commission attendance, we've made a note of that on that document, so that although it may not be on the record, we noted that there are some computer difficulties, so that everyone would look at the commissioners as taking their job seriously and being a part of the process, even though they may not be able to talk during the meeting. It's noted that some of them did have some challenges and have been engaged. And so that was done not specifically for one commissioner, but for all the commissioners who had technical difficulty. And I want to acknowledge that, because I shared that with Commissioner Curry and others, but now acknowledge it to the public so that they can hear it and see that the commitment of the commissioners is unwavering as relates to drawing fair maps with citizen input, which was the charge given by the Michiganders. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. And I thoroughly agree that we should stay consistent with how we've been doing things. So we'll move forward. So let's move back to the September 29th discussion. Are there any comments on that? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So move.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Lett to approve them and a second by Commissioner Witches. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, raise your hand and say nay. The ayes prevail and the minutes are approved. So let's move on to the Executive Director report. Without objection, I will ask Executive Director Woods to provide his report. Please proceed, Mr. Woods.
Thank you very much. And I will put this up on the screen. If you're able to see my screen, can you just reply yes, because the video is now off, so I can't see you.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just some highlights. September website. I want to thank Nelson from MDOS. He provides our website stats, and 68% of our websites are looking at final and district maps. When people come to the website, they're looking at final and district maps, where 13% are looking at district maps by county. So right now, obviously, because of our election season, we notice that people are coming to our website. It's about a little bit over 22,000 people are visiting in that particular month, and this is where they're going. In light of what our attorneys are saying, I'm doing a website review and making sure all the information is linked there and is properly there for the record. So just want you to know the website is being reviewed and updated to make sure our links work, the information is there so that there's no challenges. State Archives, just want you to know that we have dropped off our commission report as well as our maps, and it's officially at the State Archives. I personally dropped it off myself, and they were really appreciative of having these original copies, and were engaged in looking through them and seeing the work of this outstanding commission and what it has done as a great effort in Michigan that can be a model for the country. So just want you to know it's in the archives. Really want to give a shout out to Bob Wines and Gosha at the Insights 3. They've continued to be a great help as we are closing out our fiscal year. Wanted to make sure that I said it earlier that we're still in the process of closing out. So it's just a preliminary report. A lot of the requests that we are getting from the commission is dealing with how we have done the maps. People are asking for history information like data and are going to our website. So you might be able to get some calls with regards to presenting as it relates to the website. So I just want to make sure that you are aware, if you can share those with us. I know Commissioner Eade, is it Menlo College, Commissioner Eade, that you presented?
Yes, Menlo College.
Menlo College was requested to do a presentation there. Commissioner Zatella is doing an upcoming one with the San Francisco Commission in California. Their redistricting is not just statewide, but they also have local redistricting. I shared with you the article in Los Angeles. And so I just want you to know and to expect that you will have a microphone and not even know that you're being recorded. So be careful, with regards to that, as it relates to that information with regards to requests. And if you can have those requests, funneled my way so I can make sure that things are going well. I see Ms. Reinhardt has a hand.
Yeah, Ms. Reinhardt, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to note for the record that Commissioner Kellum has joined at 11:10. Thank you.
Thanks. Right. Thank you. And then in addition to our commission requests, we want to thank MDOS. As everyone knows about our fiscal year 23, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Mike Brady, Sarah Reinhardt, and the MDOS team for facilitating and ensuring that we had a meeting today to conduct business, and just wanted to express my appreciation to them. If there's any questions with regards to the highlights or things that have been worked on, I really want to say thank you for your feedback. I've contacted you all individually about our situation. You've given me feedback, and I appreciate that. And I hope you see the results of your feedback being carried out, knowing that the commission speaks in one voice. And just want to thank you for the support during these challenging times that we will get through, because we have the Constitution on our side. So once again, thank you for the support. And once again, thanks to Mr. Brady, Ms. Reinhardt at MDOS for ensuring that we have a meeting today, as well as all those that are here supporting the meeting. So we have not missed a beat in fiscal year 23. Thank you again.
Are there any comments for Mr. Woods? Given none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the MDOS updates. Without objection, I will ask Mike Brady or Sarah Reinhardt from the Michigan Department of State if they have an update. Hearing no objection, please proceed, Mr. Brady or Ms. Reinhardt.
Thank you. We have no update today.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is our correspondence. Correspondence received in advance of our meeting today was provided along with the written public comments to the commissioners in our meeting materials. Okay, and we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is our future agenda items. Are there any agenda items that commissioners would like to have added to future agendas? Ms. Satella.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. I actually have two things I'd like to add to future agenda. One is we received an email about split precincts, and this isn't the first time that's come up, where apparently there are some precincts that were split because of the way our mapping software divided precincts. And so I'd like to put that on a future agenda for the commission to discuss whether there's anything we can do about that, whether we want to do anything about it. So just a general discussion around that. And then the second one is really more of a question, but I'd like to address at a later commission meeting as well, is will we be receiving a data upload from Kim Brace and friends with respect to the election results that are upcoming, so that we can load them into our software and perhaps look at the actual performance of our maps before we end up having depositions in court cases? I think that might be helpful for us, unless our lawyers don't think that's a good idea. So that's something I think we should probably talk about as well at a future meeting. And then the last thing is just, we have an election next week, and I just encourage everybody to go out and vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Lett, you have a comment?
Yeah, just to follow up on Rebecca wanting the data upload. I know that not all of us are data savvy, and I would request that once we see once the election's over and Mr. Brace or whomever has had a chance to look at that we get them back and have a little breakout of what a review of how things went.
Okay. All right, we'll get that on the next agenda. Mr. Fink, you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to say to the commissioners, I appreciate Commissioner Zatella's question regarding the election results, but I don't want any of the commissioners to feel that they have a duty to or a need to review the election results. I'm sure you'll be interested in them. I'm sure you want to look at them in the context of what you understand about what occurred, but you are not going to be called you're not going to be deposed as experts on the outcome of the election. And obviously the election results were not known to you at the time that you undertook your task of the initial redistricting. So I don't want any of you to feel that it's your responsibility when you testify to I'm not sure what the right term is here, but it's not really going to be your responsibility to justify or defend your efforts based on the ultimate results of the election. That's something the lawyers will have to work with, but it's not going to be your responsibility. And so don't feel intimidated by that. If you want to look at the results, certainly you should. I'm certainly going to look at the results. I think we all will. But don't feel that's a requirement before you're deposed, because in the depositions, you're not going to be asked to explain in detail the outcome of the elections. If you are, it's certainly not relevant. So, I mean, I'll leave it to the Baker lawyers, probably working with us, to prepare you before your depositions with more information. But for now, I didn't want you to feel the need to do anything to justify what you've done in the past. You did what you thought was right at the time you did it, and that's what you'll be testifying about.
Thank you for your advice. Are there any other comments? Mr. Woods.
Thank you. Commissioner Clark, just want to let the commission know that I will reach out to Mr. Brace and invite him to the meeting. But Mr. Brace has been working with the MDOS team as it relates to precinct and the data that needs to be turned in. So we can have a full report at our next meeting so the commission knows exactly what took place.
Okay, great. Let's get that as a future agenda item then for next month, for our next meeting. Are there any other comments? Okay. Our Our next,
Commissioner Rothorn has his hand up,
one,
Commissioner.
sorry.
Sorry, Commissioner Clark.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
That's okay. I just wanted to confirm that November, because, yeah, I guess I'm just confirming that we will meet in November, that we should plan to meet in November, knowing that, what it took to get this meeting in October put together. So I'm just, I guess, making sure that that's at least scheduled, or at least, that I should plan on it.
I believe it's still scheduled, and there's also one scheduled in December.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Lang, I can't see your hand because you're on the phone. Do you have any questions or comments?
No questions.
Thank you. Next agenda item is announcements. Are there any announcements from any commissioner? Given none, we'll move to the last agenda item, which is adjournment. As the items on the agenda are completed and the commission has no further business, a motion to adjourn is in order. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Don't move.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Okay. The motion by Commissioner Witz and a second by Commissioner Orton. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes prevail. The meeting is adjourned at 11:30 a.m.